I scraped blood off my knuckles while fixing the porch, thinking, this is how I earn my place again. My parents had welcomed me back after I lost my job, calling it a fresh start. I poured my soul into rebuilding the house, new floors, new walls, even hope. But during our big family gathering, I heard my mum laugh. If anyone asks, she didn't help. The room spun. In that moment, something inside me broke, something old. This story isn't about a house. It's about waking up, walking away, and rebuilding something much bigger, myself. And no, they'll never erase me again. I arrived home the day Ohio coughed up its first full snowfall. Thick, wet flakes clung to the windshield as I pulled into the gravel driveway of the house I grew up in, though grew up always felt like a lie. It was the house I survived, maybe, not the one I flourished in. Still, that porch light, glowing like a soft halo through the haze, tugged something in my chest. I hadn't seen it in 5 years. Mum opened the front door before I knocked, her face lit up with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Emily," she breathed, as if speaking my name aloud cost her something. "You're home." She pulled me into a hug that smelled like cinnamon and detergent, and for a second I almost melted into it. Behind her, the kitchen glowed amber with the kind of warmth only winter kitchens carry. Oven on, banana bread rising, soft jazz playing like it belonged to someone else's life. I looked past her shoulder to the peeling wallpaper, the cracked moulding, the sunken couch. This house was falling apart, but in that moment, I let myself believe it could be saved. That night, over roast chicken and overcompensating conversation, I offered to fix up the house. I'd been jobless for 3 months, but I still had savings, tools, time. It felt like something I could give, something that might earn me a place again. Mum's eyes welled up. "If that's what you want, sweetheart," she said, touching my hand like I was 5 again. "If it makes you happy." I told myself it wasn't permission, it was gratitude. I started small, ripping up the warped kitchen floor, sanding cabinets, patching drywall. Dad mostly stayed out of sight, appearing only to grunt approval or ask about dinner. Mum hovered, offering snacks, unsolicited advice, and constant commentary. "It's looking so good," she'd chirp. "Your brother would love this. Too bad he's too busy to visit." It always came back to him. Tyler, the golden boy. He hadn't set foot in this house in over a year, but he lived in every conversation. I laughed it off, sanding harder. 2 weeks in, while painting the hallway, Tyler FaceTimed. Mum answered, shifting the camera toward the freshly painted walls. "See how nice?" she said. "Hired a professional." I froze mid-stroke. "You hired someone?" he asked. She laughed. "Well, can't trust Emily with straight lines." I didn't say anything that night. Instead, I repainted the wall she smudged with her purse the next day. Twice. Later, she suggested taking before and after photos for her Facebook. We lined up shots of the kitchen, the hallway, the living room. She posed in each one, holding a hammer or standing beside a freshly painted wall. When I offered to set the timer so we could take one together, she shook her head. No, you take them. I look awful with you. I need the light behind me." When she posted them, she captioned it, "My weekend project." No mention of me. Just comments from her church friends. "Looks amazing." "You're so handy, Joan," I told myself. She was just being modest. That she didn't mean to erase me. Then I found the photo. It was in the hallway, tucked into the corner of a frame I hadn't seen since high school. A family picture. Christmas maybe 10 years ago, all four of us, arms around one another, red sweaters, fake smiles. Only my face was gone, literally cut out, a jagged oval where my head had been. I stared at it, heart thudding in my ears. At first, I thought maybe it had torn on its own, but the edges were too clean, too intentional. When I brought it up at dinner, Mom blinked at me like I'd spoken another language. "Oh, that old thing, I was going to throw it away. Didn't even realize it was missing your face." She laughed. No one else did. Later that night, I passed her in the hallway. She was standing in the den, holding a piece of newspaper. I caught a glimpse before she crumpled it. Real estate listings, a red circle around a single column. She met my gaze and smiled. Couldn't sleep, you know how it is. Then she turned, slowly tearing the page into pieces, dropping them one by one into the trash. I didn't sleep either. The first time she criticized my cooking, it was wrapped in a compliment. "You're finally learning," she said, spooning mashed potatoes onto her plate. "Though I still think you put in too much garlic. Maybe keep it simple next time, like I do." After that, she took over meal planning, down to the minute. Breakfast was at 7:30 sharp, lunch 12:15, dinner 6. I found a colour-coded calendar on the fridge with meal prep tasks assigned to me like I was the help. "Structure helps you stay grounded," she told me, smiling over her reading glasses. I laughed nervously. "I'm not falling apart." She smiled wider. "Of course not, sweetie. That's what a victim would say." At first, I thought I was imagining the shift. But it wasn't just the food. She started timing my showers. "You've been in there 20 minutes, she called through the door. "You know we pay for water, right?" Lights were turned off while I was still in the room. Doors locked behind me. I'd go to grab my phone and find it had been moved twice. Then Tyler sent me a TikTok. No caption, just a video of a smug guy listing 10 reasons your adult daughter is still living at home. I didn't respond. He followed up with, "You good though?" I deleted the message. I tried to claw back a sense of self by sharing photos of the work I was doing, before and after shots of the living room walls, a video of me replacing cabinet hinges, even a clip where I jokingly narrated, "Welcome to Renovation Prison." It got 500 views. I smiled for the first time in days. The next morning, Mom stood in the doorway holding her phone. "Emily," she said slowly, "what exactly are you trying to prove posting those things online?" "I'm just documenting," I replied. "You're making us look like slumlords." "They're just pictures." "Well, people talk." "Who?" "Everyone." I took the videos down that afternoon. Later that week, I called my college roommate Jen over Zoom. Her face lit up on screen, familiar, grounding. "God, I miss your sarcasm," she said. "I miss yours more." I hesitated. "I need to ask you something weird." "Shoot." I looked around. Mom was outside trimming hedges, or pretending to. "Do you think I'm being used?" She frowned. "By who?" "My family." Silence stretched. I kept going. "I mean, I'm fixing this whole house, paying for it, doing it myself, and they act like I'm crashing a hotel. No thanks, no help. And sometimes I feel like they're pretending I'm not here." "Emily," she said gently, "you don't sound paranoid. You sound like someone waking up." I exhaled, shaky. "But what if I'm just making it worse? What if I'm the problem?" "You're not." She leaned closer to the camera. But they've made you believe that. The next day, I overheard Mom on the phone. She's just freeloading, she said, standing by the window, not bothering to lower her voice. Doing it all for show. Takes forever to finish anything. Honestly, I should have just hired someone. My hands clenched around the screwdriver I was holding. Then came the kicker. Tyler needed help with his car. A few days later, a package arrived. I opened the door to a set of tyres stacked on the porch. Mom beamed. I sent him some money. Poor thing's been commuting with that death trap for weeks. You sent him money? Of course. He needs it. I've been buying every nail and screw in this place. You don't have rent. That's your contribution. I started recording conversations after that. I didn't plan to. It just happened. I'd set my phone in my pocket, tap record, and let it roll. A backup, a sanity check. One night, I listened to a clip. Mum, she thinks this house will be hers. She's delusional. We're not putting her on the deed. Dad, then why let her do all this? Mum, because she's useful, for now. I deleted the file. The next morning, over oatmeal, she said, I've been thinking, maybe we should open a joint bank account, just for the renovation. It'd be easier for receipts, tax write-offs, that kind of thing. I looked up. Her eyes were too wide, too rehearsed. That sounds complicated, I said. She shrugged. Just a suggestion. I nodded and spooned another bite into my mouth, forcing myself to chew. That night, I lay in bed, watching the ceiling, counting breaths. Something was rotting here, and it wasn't the wood. The house looked immaculate. Fairy lights curled around the porch, flickering soft amber against the fresh white paint I had applied just days earlier. Inside, the scent of warm cider and vanilla candles wrapped around every corner like a lie dressed in nostalgia. The housewarming, as Mom called it, a housewarming for a house that had never truly been warm, was in full swing. People buzzed around with wine glasses and polite compliments. Some were neighbours I vaguely recognised. Others were friends of my parents from church or co-workers I had never met, all of them admiring the work, my work, the repainted ceilings, the retiled bathroom, the new handrails on the staircase. And none of them knew. I was in the kitchen, scrubbing lipstick stains from glassware, trying not to feel the walls closing in. Then I heard her. Standing by the fireplace, Mum gestured proudly at the new shelves I'd installed. A woman beside her, maybe a reporter, scribbled in a notebook. Oh, yes, Mum said, her voice syrupy. We hired professionals for everything. My husband oversaw the whole process. The woman raised an eyebrow. And your daughter? Mum let out a breathy laugh. Emily, oh, she didn't help. Mostly just watched. It's not really her thing. The glass slipped from my hand. It shattered in the sink, sharp and final. I stood there, frozen, as silence crawled into the kitchen behind me. Heads turned. The clang of shards echoed longer than it should have. Someone asked if I was okay. I couldn't answer. My chest was too tight. My ears rang. Mum didn't flinch. She smiled and sipped her wine. Later, when the room was full of conversation again, she walked past me on her way to the hallway and paused. Her gaze met mine. Cold, calculated. She lifted one brow, then, subtle as a blade, she winked. And in that moment, I understood. This had never been about family. It had been about theatre. I made it through the rest of the night on autopilot, stacking dishes, avoiding small talk, ignoring the whispers. At one point, someone said, "Your mum is amazing," and I nodded. biting the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. Once everyone left, I retreated to my room and locked the door. I sat on the edge of my bed and opened the voice memos on my phone. I scrolled through the list of recordings and chose one from a week ago, one I hadn't dared to listen to yet. I pressed play. Mum's voice, laughing, filled the room. She thinks she's saving the house. It's cute, honestly, like a child playing Renovation. A beat of silence. She'll burn out soon. They always do. Then I'll hire someone to fix the rest. The recording stopped. I sat there, staring at the wall, heart pounding. I was never part of the plan. I was a placeholder, a body to fill the space between ambition and aesthetics. My mother had let me think I was building something real, something meaningful, while all along she was crafting an illusion. I grabbed my journal and wrote 3 words, "Leave tomorrow," quietly. I packed what I could, just essentials, tools, clothes, my laptop. I left the books, the photos, the gifts I had once thought were keepsakes. None of it felt mine anymore. Then morning. I came downstairs early, hoping to slip out unnoticed. But she was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, clasped in both hands. Her eyes were red. "You're leaving," she said softly, not asking. I stayed silent. She stood and crossed the room. Her hands trembled slightly. "I messed up. I know I did. I said things I shouldn't have. I was under pressure. People expect so much from me." I looked at her, really looked. This was the same woman who had erased me from photos, who had taken credit for everything, who had smiled while lying to a reporter. Now she was crying. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "You're my daughter. You're all I have." She reached for my hand. I hesitated. And in that pause, sharp, raw, splitting, I felt the fault lines beneath everything begin to crack again. The folding chair beneath me creaked each time I shifted, but I didn't dare move much. The circle of strangers around me was quiet, save for the soft hum of an old space heater in the corner. We were seated in a downtown church basement, lit by string lights and vulnerability. A sign outside read, "Daughters Anonymous, healing for those raised invisible." I hadn't planned on speaking. I'd come to observe, maybe cry silently in a corner, then leave unnoticed. But something about the woman across from me, mid-40s, streaks of grey in her braid, gentle sort of brokenness in her posture, nudged something open. When it was my turn, I cleared my throat. "My name's Emily," I said, "and I thought I was helping my family by coming home, by fixing their house. But it turns out I was just fixing the set for their performance." The room stayed still, no interruptions, no judgment, so I kept going. They let me believe I was part of something, then told everyone I did nothing. And I stayed. I kept sanding walls and scrubbing floors, thinking maybe, just maybe, if I made the house beautiful enough, they'd finally see me. A few people nodded. One woman put her hand to her chest. "I don't know if I'm heartbroken," I said, "or just hollow." Silence again, and then the woman across from me leaned forward. "You're not a victim," she said softly. "You're evidence." I blinked. "What?" "Of rot, of generational sickness. You are the proof of a family system that needed a scapegoat to keep functioning. They didn't ignore you because you were broken. They ignored you because you were awake." It hit me like heat. Tears welled before I could stop them, and I didn't wipe them away. After the meeting, she hugged me. Not the light, distant kind. the full-bodied kind that said, "I see you. I mean it." I left that basement shivering, but not from the cold. Back in my borrowed studio apartment, I stared at my phone charging by the window. I hadn't checked it all day. 78 unread messages, all from one number. I opened the thread. The first 20 were pictures of the house, new throw pillows, a repainted bench on the porch. Her caption, "Still making things beautiful." Then came the guilt-laced ones. "You really want to embarrass us like this? You were never stable. You've always needed attention." The last message was short, ominous. "If you keep attacking this family, I'll have no choice but to tell everyone the truth about you." I stared at it for a long time. What truth? And then I remembered the audio files, the photos, the videos, all the pieces I'd saved. At first, for proof, later for sanity, and now for fire. I emailed the folder, titled simply Home, to a podcast I'd followed for years. Unspoken, Stories We Don't Survive Out Loud. Their host, Vanessa Cho, was known for unravelling complex trauma with grace and precision. I didn't expect a reply. "I just wanted someone to see it," she responded in 2 hours. Her message was brief. "I read it. I listened. Let's talk. I believe you." 3 weeks later, the episode dropped, The Renovation That Broke Her. Vanessa didn't use my last name. She disguised my mother's voice slightly, layered the story with narration, context, and research about family narcissism and scapegoat dynamics. She let the tape speak for itself. The moment that went viral, my mother's voice, laughing. "She didn't help. She just stood around." Thousands of shares, comments pouring in. "I've lived this." God, the gaslighting. Who else cut out a daughter's face from a photo? I read them all. I cried. I smiled. I shook with something between fear and release. And then the email came. The subject line, about the house. The body. "Hi, Emily. I've been listening to your story and I think I might have a piece of the puzzle. I'm a real estate agent in your hometown. Last year, your mother approached me about listing the property. She said the house would be fully renovated by spring and she expected top dollar. We even did a walkthrough. She never mentioned you were the one doing the work. I read it twice. 3 times. The timeline lined up. She'd planned to sell it from the beginning. That's why the push for perfection. That's why she cared so much about appearances. I wasn't fixing a home. I was flipping her investment for free. I replied, "Thank you. That explains everything." The next day I started packing again, not with panic this time, with purpose. My story was out. The lie had cracked. And somewhere, somehow, I could feel the foundation shifting beneath her, not the house, her myth. She called on a Tuesday. Her name lit up my screen like a warning label. I let it ring 5 times before answering, already knowing how it would begin. "You're destroying us," she said, voice sharp with rage, barely disguised as sorrow. "No," I replied calmly. "I'm revealing us. There's a difference." A pause. "You think the world needs to hear about your pathetic sob story?" "I think it already has. You've always needed attention, Emily, since you were a child, always acting like the victim." "And you," I said, "have always needed an audience." There was a beat of silence, the kind that buzzed. "I hope it was worth it," she spat and hung up. The next day, Tyler posted on Facebook, "Some people will do anything for clout, even tear down the people who gave them everything. Just remember, blood is thicker than clicks." He didn't tag me, but he didn't have to. A few of his followers responded with heart emojis. Others were less forgiving. Didn't she renovate your parents' whole house alone? Funny how the golden boy always stays golden, even when he's covered in rust. Screenshots of his post made it onto Reddit threads titled "Scapegoat Daughters Unite" and "Families Who Feed on Silence." The backlash wasn't cruel, it was surgical, precise. People weren't out for blood, they were out for truth. In my inbox, I found messages from neighbours. We always wondered about the dynamic in that house. You weren't imagining things. I'm sorry we didn't speak up sooner. And one from a cousin I barely knew. Thank you, I left too. I just didn't have the words until you gave me yours. No one stormed the gates, no one lit torches, but something quieter and maybe more powerful was happening. A shift, a reckoning. Then one final voicemail from my mother. You think you know everything, she said. Her voice was tired now, not soft, just spent. But you don't know the whole story. You keep pushing, and I'll have to tell people who you really are. Don't make me say it. Don't make me tell them. She didn't say what it was, and maybe that was the point. Fear only needs fog, not form. That night, I sat down at my desk and wrote. It wasn't a clapback. It wasn't revenge. It was a letter. To anyone still listening, it began, this isn't about exposing anyone. This is about naming what was never allowed to exist. The invisible, the silent, the child who was praised for being quiet and punished for being loud. The adult who painted walls hoping love might finally stick to them. I ended it with a line I wasn't sure was mine until I wrote it. Truth doesn't need defenders. It only needs to be heard. I attached the detailed invoice of every repair I had made, every dollar spent, every hour worked. I uploaded it to the same public folder as the podcast link. Then I blocked her number. Forever. The comments kept rolling in. Some were cruel, most weren't. Someone on Twitter dubbed me the ghost builder. The woman who rebuilt the house and disappeared before they could cut her out of the ribbon. It caught on. People made memes, fan art, TikToks with dramatic narrations over paintbrush strokes and demolition clips. It was absurd and poetic and somehow exactly what it needed to be. For the first time, I wasn't trying to be seen. I simply refused to be erased. Then, 1 week after the dust settled, I got an email. No name, no subject line. Just this. You're not their daughter, Emily. Not by blood. Ask about the fire. Ask about 1989. I stared at the screen, heart in my throat. Not their daughter. The world I'd just burned down might not have even been mine to begin with. The DNA test took 3 weeks. I spit into a plastic tube, sealed the package, and dropped it at a quiet post office in a town where no one knew my name. I told myself it was just to disprove a threat, a power play. But some small, stubborn part of me already knew the answer. I tried to keep moving. Went for long walks, cooked too much food I didn't eat, repainted the same thrifted dresser 3 times. Still, every night I'd lie awake, the words of that anonymous email echoing. Ask about the fire. Ask about 1989. The results came on a rainy Thursday. My fingers trembled as I logged in. The screen loaded slowly, painfully. There was no match with my mother or my father. But there was a 99.98% match to a woman listed as deceased. Her name was Margaret Lane, my aunt, my mother's older sister. I sat perfectly still, staring at the name. I remembered her only vaguely, laughing too loud at holidays, always smelling like spearmint and smoke. She died when I was 4, in a fire everyone said was caused by faulty wiring. I was told I'd been staying with my grandparents that night, that Margaret didn't have any children, but she did. She had me. The rest unfolded like a hidden map. Margaret had left behind journals, discovered years later in a storage unit never claimed. They'd made their way to a local historical society. I tracked them down, explained who I was, sent proof. Inside one notebook was a letter, written in looping cursive. It began, "If you're reading this, then you've found the truth. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I didn't get the chance." It went on to describe a custody battle, a fear of addiction in Margaret's life, and a sister, my mother, who had always been so good at cleaning things up, including me. She never formally adopted me, no papers, just took me in after the fire and rewrote the narrative. No one questioned her. A single mother recovering from tragedy, a child too young to remember. It was easy, too easy. I thought I'd cry, but I didn't. Instead, I felt a strange, exquisite quiet, like watching the sky clear after a storm. Every question I'd ever asked in secret, why don't I look like them? Why do I feel like a guest? Why is there not a single baby photo of me in this house? Suddenly made sense. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was architectural. They had built an entire world around me, then handed me the blueprints, only after I'd torn the house down. But I didn't want vengeance anymore. I wanted foundation. 6 months later, I bought a house. It wasn't big, 2 bedrooms, wood floors scarred from age, windows that hummed when it rained. But it faced the sea, and the porch caught the light just right around 4 p.m. I painted the door navy blue and built my own shelves, this time with no one watching. I named it Truth Haven. On my desk, next to a stack of notebooks, I placed a small brass sign I had engraved. She didn't help, she rebuilt everything. The podcast still drew listeners. I'd done a follow-up episode, calm, quiet, not angry, about identity and how sometimes the truth breaks you open in the best possible way. Messages came from around the world. Then one afternoon, a knock. I opened the door to find a girl no older than 20, soft eyes, bitten nails, a backpack too heavy for her frame. "Are you Emily?" she asked. "The one from the podcast?" I nodded. "I'm sorry to just show up. I didn't know who else to talk to. I don't need a place to stay or anything. She swallowed. "I think I need to rebuild something too, not a house. Just me." I looked at her for a long moment, something in my chest shifting like a slow tide. "Come in," I said gently. We'll start with the foundation.